Please enjoy your lunches in those boxes and eat now or you won't get a chance because we're going to talk right through lunch. So make yourselves comfortable and enjoy the lunch. Well, ho-hum, just another routine day of launching well-considered ideas and making them a reality at Brooklyn Law School. I suppose, are you here to hear about our new 2-year JD program? No. Okay, well maybe, are you here to hear about the programs that helped the graduating class achieve a 94% bar passage, the highest in the last 25 years? Is that the reason you're here? No. Okay. Are you here to find out about the programs and initiatives that are helping the recently graduated class to already have landed 20+% more jobs than the previous class landed in the previous year? Is that the reason you're here? No. Are you here really to discuss Associate Dean Kaplo's signature public interest, public service 2-year fellowship for third-year students? The signature. I do the jokes around here, Stacy. Are you here to learn about the business boot camp that we're offering again this year that already 200 students have signed up for? Are you here to learn about the Washington Immersion Program or the joint JD LLM second year abroad program that Professor Solon has engineered? Are you here to discuss what it is that's caused our faculty once again to be ranked in the top echelon of faculties around the United States for their scholarship? Are you here to really talk about those kinds of things? Is that the reason that you're here? No. All right. Well, in that case, perhaps the reason you're here is to talk about the launch of the Center for Urban Business Entrepreneurship, which is a remarkable, innovative, unique in many respects program that has been developed over a long period of time and pounded into shape by the trustees, by the faculty, and has the support of several of our most loyal and generous alumni, and some of them are here today. So I say to the trustees, including chairman of our board, Stu Subotnick, who has been with us all day today, and I'm going to give him his release. He's way overstayed because it was such an interesting morning, but I know that he has to get up and leave, and so I won't take it personally if he gets up and leaves. I'm used to it all the time. But the students, faculty, our loyal and generous alumni, and the large number of civic and business leaders who are with us, we understand that developing a program like today is only possible with the help and cooperation and input of people from all of those constituencies. This program was developed over a long period of time, but the DNA of it, started perhaps with Professor Jonathan Askin, but it's also the faculty's DNA that has fundamentally brought this program along, with people like David Reese, Professor Bechtel, Professor Dean, Professor Macy, Claire Kelly, who wrote a Centers of Excellence paper for the Longtime Planning Committee, and many, many other people. The baby mama of this new foundling here on our doorstep is Jean Smith, our development officer. And Jean, where are you? I can't see you. Maybe she's upstairs. There she is, right there. Jean's role has been remarkable. Unlike any development officer in higher education I've ever seen, she's been like a bumblebee, and she's not only brought the honey which we need the funds to make this work. But she's brought the pollen around from flower to flower to keep this going, and has been very instrumental as a liaison between the faculty, the founders of this program, in developing ideas and bringing it along to the stage where we are right now. So we're extremely grateful. There were also many midwives, including Vice Dean Cahill, Vice Dean Kaplow, Associate Dean, promotion, I guess, Associate Dean Kaplow, Vice Dean Dana Brockman-Reeser, who have helped shape and move this program through the various committees, and it's going to be an ongoing piece of work, and so I beg their forgiveness for the engagement that it's going to be required on an ongoing basis. This program is about many things, but one of the things it's about is jobs. I'm going to take this opportunity to introduce you. I hope she's on this level. You know, this is a two-level event here. Upstairs, but it's okay, guys, upstairs, if you use your hands to eat this lunch. You know, it's all right. I'd like to introduce you to Karen Eisen. Where's Karen? Karen, stand up. Karen is our, welcome her. Karen is our new Assistant Dean for Career Development, and will be heading up that office, and I hope that every student here gets to know her, and also I'm sure that they will have the benefit of her experience in leadership in focusing, as we have, in helping our students find and begin meaningful careers that use their legal muscle, which is their brain. And we're really looking forward to having her on board. She comes to us from Winston & Strawn, and she has a long career in the private sector, in human resources, development, placement, recruiting, but also she worked out and has been in the public sector for 12 years in the Manhattan DA's office, I guess. Is that right? Yeah. Great. Also, take the opportunity to introduce you to Paul Ganji, who you'll be, Ganji, Paul, please stand up so people can see you. I don't have all the details worked out, but I hope very soon to be able to announce, so I won't announce it now and spoil the suspense, that Paul will become the executive director of CUBE, and we really need an executive director. We're very, very fortunate. Paul is the right man for the right job at the right time. He's a senior partner and has been for many, many years at Manat Phelps, a large national law firm. He specializes in land use and real estate. He is an incredible civic leader in Brooklyn, is well known in the political and the civic community here. His passion, and including his expertise, his passion is for nonprofit institutions, and among other things chaired the Children's Museum. He's an extraordinary person. He's helped me and the law school a lot over the last year and a half, and in the last month has been working very intensely in bringing along CUBE. Paul, welcome, and welcome a little bit prematurely, no pressure, but I hope we get this done. Never has it been clearer to me why we need an executive director than in trying to get this program launched today without an executive director. So you're a little bit late, Paul. I mean, I don't know, or I'm a little bit late. But I will say I'll take this moment to acknowledge our Assistant Dean for External Affairs, Linda Harvey, and her entire team, Eric Riley, our Communications Director, and Chris Gibbons, and the entire team. I'm seeing Caitlin back there and Liz. I feel like in the romper room, and I see Billy and I see Tommy. You're all, I'm sure I'm forgetting some people, but your help has been extraordinary in putting together a very original, and there's Andrea in the corner over there, Andrea Polci, putting together just a marvelous, fun, different kind of a program. You know, we're so boring here. This program today was extraordinary. We had everything from music to 3D printing with our logo by MakerBot, our CUBE, and so we've had the benefit of a lot of creativity and a lot of hard work. We are also particularly grateful, I know that Carlos is here, thank you very much, from the Chamber of Commerce. I can't even venture, we had, this morning we had both the Marty Markowitz and Eric Adams, and I expect Eric to be here, the incoming borough president, if he's able to break away later at the end of this program to wrap up the day. He told me before he left this morning that this CUBE type of enterprise was exactly what he's hoping to do and get engaged in, and he wants to sit down and learn more about it and be as supportive as he possibly can, and that's very, very promising for us. Warren Gardner, are you here? If not, he will be very soon. He's in the incoming mayor's office, director of intergovernmental affairs. We've got several people here from the Downtown Partnership. Tucker will be here if he's not already. Is Tucker here? Senator Squadron is on the way. David Yaskey is probably, there he is. He took a taxi, so he's here on time. Former member of our faculty is always welcome here. And many, many other people, and no doubt, and forgive me if I've forgotten to mention and shout out. The alumni who have been so important to the launch of this idea have been extraordinary. Each of them has enormous heart, enormous experience, and the financial resources to make a difference, but they insisted that we do this program differently, and they provided us with not only seed money, but with advice and very strong input. So the very handsome gentleman that you see on the screen, who will be speaking immediately after me, is Larry Feldman, 74, is the Chief Executive Officer of Subway Development Corporation. He and his wife, Diane Feldman, have been founders, and we're extremely grateful for their support and guidance. Deborah Humphreys, 84, founder and chair of the Board of Trustees of the Thomas Jefferson Independent Day School in Missouri, and David Humphreys, her husband, is the president, CEO of Tamco Building Products. They are founding contributors. Deborah, we really appreciate your help. Give her a hand of applause. She has been a very demanding, in a very good way, participant, and has made sure that we're being very hard-headed, that we benefit students, that we don't lose our way as a law school, and that we have metrics so we measure and know whether we're actually doing something and achieving something. And so we're very, very grateful to her. Evan Azrilliant is here. He'll also be, Evan is there. He's out the door halfway. I know he's got another meeting downtown, but we're very grateful you were with us all day. And we're also particularly grateful for your financial support, and we're deeply indebted to you. Gary Rosenberg, in the eponymous law firm of Rosenberg and Edis, and he has, I think, the greatest view that I've seen in New York City, is here with us. Gary, thank you very much. Incredibly generous and helpful. Someone who's been enormously helpful to us, a big fan, and he's so good looking that I try to keep him as far away from my wife as possible. Stanley Grossman, 67. Stan participates in many, many ways here. We're just enormously grateful for the role that he's played in bringing this law school around, and we really thank you. And one of the founders, who's a huge founder and also facilitated through Jonathan and through Gene, providing us for free space, which is something that Larry Feldman made us do, because he said that one of the big mistakes that new enterprises, and that's what this is that they spend too much on space and get in trouble from the start, and he wanted us to be entrepreneurial. So Bob Cattell helped facilitate space. Bob's been a great friend of this law school. He's also contributed in an enormously generous fashion. I saw him last night at another event, and he told me how interested he was, and he's looking forward with great expectation to the success of this enterprise. So, Bob, thank you very much. Now, I want to just leave you with a thought that what we're doing today is unique in several ways and important. We're not trying to be imitative of other institutions. At this law school, we're trying to be the very best in the things that we can truly have an expectation that we can try to be the best at. And CUBE is sort of an additional piece to what we already do very well here. In the public sector, we have our signature Sparrow Fellowship programs, public interest work, pro bono activities and centers. We have internationally, human rights and international public law, great leadership and work in that field. We have a long tradition of people being trained and going into public service and government and also going into the public interest in the fields. In the private sector, we have extraordinary academic excellence in centers in international law, a center in business law, which is focusing increasingly on compliance and regulation. We have other outstanding programs in the private business area, but this adds a new piece that strengthens a lot of the activity and the clinical work and a lot of the innovative work that our tax faculty is doing, that our real estate faculty is doing, yes, that our technology faculty are engaged in, and many others, including social enterprise, where Steve Dean and Dana, just for example, Dana Brockman-Reeser has produced a very important article about some aspects of that area. So we're trying to build, and the CUBE builds on what we already have, and it's a great fit. It's unique in the sense that it's comprehensive in a way that I really don't believe exists in other places. And by the way, there's a great demand for this kind of work. So, of course, there's other law schools that are beginning to get into the entrepreneurship field, and there will be more, of course, and that's good. But I believe that ours is very comprehensive. North to south, it's comprehensive because we plan for our students foundational, basic legal courses of the highest quality, advanced courses in several different areas, including clinical and practical work, simulations, negotiations, but advanced courses in special areas. But then also, the third thing is that we're planning a number of activities for them, including projects, papers, research papers, symposia, seminars, and all of that. So that all comes together. So north to south, we're very unique, but east to west, we're unique in that we cover the gamut. This is technology. We're the best in the country in the field of technology, but it's much more than just technology. It's creative arts, culinary arts, film, television, fashion, where we've got such good adjunct faculty leadership with Sam Sporn and other people in that area. It's real estate with important groundbreaking work that's so critical. It's energy and environment, which is going to involve a lot of people who are both on our adjunct faculty, and I know from Professor Macy's excitement and by Bob Cattell pushing that we're going to be using the existing faculty to build in this area. So those are some of the areas. Social enterprise is another. I always lose track here. Community deal making, where you're helping facilitate people with new deals. They all have basic things in common, and that's probably 5 out of 6. And if I forgot the 6, you forgive me. But there's 6 sides to CUBE. The unique thing about our CUBE is that our CUBE has 3 legs. And the 3 legs of our CUBE, to mix metaphors horribly, is education, training, practical experience, and scholarship. And just a moment about the scholarship. There are huge issues about what the law should be that should be addressed, and this law school can be a place to facilitate that on an international basis and to bring people together to address questions like what should be the rules governing crowd fundraising? What are the appropriate policies towards patent assertion enterprises, or some people call them patent trolls? That type of issue. What is the relationship between immigration reform and innovation and entrepreneurship? What is the appropriate health care policy? Should small businesses have an out or an escape hatch? These are the type of issues that need to be addressed in a thoughtful way that bears studying in an institution of this kind. And I'm very proud that we are already working in that area in many regards, and that's one of the visions we have. for this enterprise. So, yes, it's a collaboration of many of the people I mentioned. It's because of their support and help and guidance that even though, and this makes some people uneasy, but even though it is true that we are building the plane while we're flying it in regard to this Cube enterprise, I have great confidence that we are going to succeed and that we're going to soar to new heights. And with that, I thank you very much. And if it's technologically permissible, and I have not put my good friend and our outstanding alum to sleep, Larry Feldman, I'm going to turn it over and ask Larry to have a few words. Larry?
Thank you very much. Hopefully you can hear me.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, excellent. First of all, I apologize that we need to go through this technology. I would have loved to have been with you, and I'm very excited about the event that's taking place today. I just got back late last night from Israel, where I was leading a mission, so it was very difficult for me to get back to see you. But I'm so glad I had an opportunity to be here to talk with you, the esteemed group that's here, and the Board of Trustees. And I just want to say one word first of thanks to you. I doubt very much that we would have been able to put together a program like this and at this level without your leadership, your entrepreneurship, and I think we all owe the Dean a round of applause for putting this all together. You know, when I first had the opportunity to meet you, Dean, and Jean, and your great staff, and the faculty, being very excited about putting a program together like this. As an entrepreneur myself, this really was a very special opportunity. Just very briefly to tell some members of your audience and our esteemed panel, go back a long way. When you mentioned Larry Feldman, 74, by the way, that's not my age. That's the year I graduated from Brooklyn Law. I just wanted to make that clear. But at that point, because of the internships, because of the offerings through Brooklyn Law, I did have an opportunity after law school to intern with the House of Representatives, where I eventually, along with Congressman Stu McKinney of Connecticut, became Deputy Minority Counsel to the House Banking Committee of the House of Representatives. So there I was, by the way, 30 years ago during issues such as cradle-to-grave health insurance, alternative fuel sources, the bankruptcy of New York City, and the Chrysler bailout. So here we are 37 years later, and not much has changed in terms of issues. But while on the Hill, you can imagine, as I called my sainted mother in the projects of Brooklyn and told her I would no longer be her son, the minority counsel, I would now be her son, the sandwich maker. As I opened up the first Subway sandwich restaurant in the Washington area, you can hear the screams. For this, you went to law school, but we bought her a condo in Florida, and she got over it relatively quickly. So it all seemed to work out. But it's because of that experience with Subway, the last 37 years, as I own the territories of Washington, Virginia, Maryland, Delaware, and now South Florida, I've had the opportunity to deal with more than 1,600 units of Subway and their franchisees. Subway around the world, 43,000, 9 countries. But my opportunity to deal with entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs who have gotten into the franchise business, what we really found was, and many of you in the audience, a little tongue-in-cheek, but there's a slogan that we use in our office: if you want to kill a deal, call a lawyer. And think about it. How often, how many times is it more about the legal work that's involved? It's more about the thought of a lawyer in the process of protecting his client to the point where very often deals do not get made. I'm involved in a major deal now where exactly that same situation happened, and I needed to change law firms because there was too much testosterone, too much battling back and forth, more care about the fight than making the deal itself. So, Dean, when you and I started talking about the opportunity to bring an entrepreneurship program to Brooklyn Law, the excitement was certainly there. And I just want to make just a couple of points. This is about teaching lawyers the art of making the deals. has been happening through the morning, but hopefully I'm back. But Brooklyn Law, under your leadership, has brought us the opportunity for us to be entrepreneurial at Brooklyn Law. The opportunity to not only teach the subject, but live the subject as well through the clinics. The opportunity for us to give back to the citizens, not only of Brooklyn, but of a much broader area. So that, for instance, my two sons who have a clothing boutique in New York, if they did not have me there to help them guide, where would they go if they didn't have the funds to go to a lawyer or a law firm? Now we have an opportunity through our clinics to assist those who may not know where to go or could afford the appropriate places to go. Now, at Brooklyn Law, we'll become that center, that hub. So we're giving back to the community. We're providing through our clinics, and thank you to those landlords and alumni who have helped us to have locations for our facilities, as well as the opportunity for us to recruit. Think about it. You're now a college graduate looking to go to a law school. Now you have an opportunity to put in the category of entrepreneurial legal studies. And Brooklyn Law School will be #1 in that category. So if I know that I want to be involved as a lawyer in the building of businesses and providing that education and support, Brooklyn Law School certainly is the place to go. And this happens under your leadership. So we're recruiting more students to Brooklyn Law as specialists in entrepreneurial law. We are doing the service to the community, as well as what I hope could also be, and I know we need to talk to the Bar Association about this, but also somewhat of a profit center for Brooklyn Law. There are those of our clients who may be able to afford. There are some clients who may not. But those who can, even if it's the equivalent of, let's say, $30, $35 an hour, as opposed to what could amount to $100 an hour, we still have an opportunity to support this program in that way, again, if the Bar Association approves that course of action. And also, it is so important that we use PR to tell our story. People around Brooklyn, the city, and the United States need to know the leadership position that you've taken in bringing entrepreneurial law to our community. So, having said that, I look forward to working with the panel, looking forward to working with you, our staff, our program, and really making us #1 in the country. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. So, Larry, as I said earlier today, to use a time-worn Latin legal expression, I'm cavelling, I've got such knackus. It's really, oh, come on, that's pretty good. You can, come on. Lighten up a little bit, all right? Larry, that's terrific. We're glad to have you by Skype.
Thank you.
We'll take you any way we can. We appreciate the input that you have. Before we begin this panel, just ask, put him on the spot. Tucker, would you like to say a few words? Tucker Reed from the Downtown Brooklyn Partnership is here. Just right here.
Well, thank you for inviting me today. And I would just like to, kind of put into context why I think it's so important that this program here is on you today. Today we have over 500 tech, creative, innovation firms here at what we're calling the Brooklyn Tech Triangle. It stretches on the try. You guys, but
especially if it's not on. Hello.
okay.
It's extra if we make it work here.
I'm having a lot of technical difficulties, so we're not that.
This is nothing compared to, I mean, it's fine.
But it stretches from downtown Brooklyn to the 80 yard and these firms, their growth trajectory and what we're learning, what they're telling us is hot, right? They collectively employ about 15,000 people today. They expect that number to double in the next 3 years. They have a collective impact on Brooklyn's GDP of $3 billion a day. They expect that number to double over the next 3 years. This program is coming together at exactly the right time, not only to serve the right borough, but just the neighborhoods that surround this institution. So I would encourage all of you, as you start to embark on your studies in this field, to make sure that it's connected back to reality. And I know that Dean Allard is not somebody that deals in faraway places up in the clouds. He's very much focused on the community that we have here in downtown Brooklyn. And it's really wonderful to see Brooklyn Law School really kind of fundamentally opening their doors to the surrounding business community here in downtown.
So, Tucker has already been helpful in that the Downtown Brooklyn Partnership is providing Wi-Fi to the entire area. And one of the very first places is they're working on providing Wi-Fi through their initiative at this law school and all our facilities. So we're very happy about that. That'll be a big help to us. We really appreciate that. Also, he's promised me that at every depiction of the Brooklyn Renaissance and Tech Triangle and maps, that the Brooklyn Law School will now be noted, you know, as a part with a little flag on all of you, right? Thank you very much for agreeing to that. No pressure, okay? With that, I'll turn you over to the one, the only moderator of this panel, our Professor Jonathan Askin.
Thanks, Nick. And my apologies to Larry for losing the Skype connection. I would like to think that had I taken that job 10 years ago as a young attorney, as employee number 10 at Skype and its first American representative, that might not have happened. But I did not have the courage of the folks on this podium and the courage of many of the faces I see in this room. I see BLS grads, I see entrepreneurs, I see revolutionaries. I swore until 9:30 this morning I was going to say nothing and just facilitate this discussion between the panelists and you all, given our time constraints. But something happened around 9:20. Our incoming borough president gave us a few remarks, and he talked about today, this moment in time in Brooklyn, as an 1883 moment. Students, what do I mean by an 1883 moment? Anyone want to hazard a guess? What? So I knew this fellow back there would know about the Brooklyn Bridge, a great moment in revolutionary, entrepreneurial Brooklyn history. So I want to talk for a minute about revolutions. Because I should tell you, first of all, I'm very proud to say my title with CUBE is Innovation Catalyst, for better or worse. I know folks in academia, folks in the legal profession thinks it's a little flippant. Folks in the entrepreneurial world, folks in the startup world, think it's potentially inspiring. Now, I say innovation catalyst, not revolutionary, because I am not a revolutionary. I'm a fraud when it comes to being a revolutionary. I look down here. I am a conservative coward. I went behind the ivory tower because I was afraid to embark on my own adventure. When I look at these folks down here, I see legally trained people who have had the courage to embark on their own ventures. So I want to talk about Brooklyn as a place, a home, a hotbed for revolution. If you look down this hill, you can't quite see it now because of the damn federal court building. Maybe our real estate community will level that thing and we'll have a nice view of the Brooklyn Bridge and Dumbo. Because it was right there at Fulton Landing that our experiment, our collective experiment in democracy and civic governance began. We had lost every single battle of the American Revolution from Bunker Hill all the way down to Brooklyn until that moment when, through providence or luck, a fog rolled in. The British troops were about to devastate, I'd say decimate, but decimate means getting rid of 1/10. They were going to destroy the last remnants of Washington's army. Fog rolls in, Washington's army from Fulton Landing rows across to Manhattan and manages to keep the Brits at bay until they can regroup and then race down across New Jersey to Valley Forge and I'm sorry, Gene. It was a great moment in American history. It might not have been Britain's finest moment. Thank you. So since that moment, so when Eric Adams says 1883, it's an 1883 moment, I like to think we're actually living in a 1776 moment. I like to think that in every modern revolution, Brooklyn has played a vital, pivotal role. You look down this way, you see the Navy Yard, the Brooklyn Navy Yard, fallow for a couple of decades. Now, what is it? It's the hotbed for the digital maker community. Brilliant, brilliant companies building real-life digital designs, 3D printing companies, kinetic furniture companies, upcycled styrofoam companies, environmentally conscious, revolutionary digital makers. You look down, straight down to Dumbo, you see 500, 600 startups revolutionizing the way we use technology and internet platforms. Augmented reality companies. I see we've got visitors from Finland now embarking on a new augmented reality platform, trying to bring it and make it live in Brooklyn. if we get our immigration policy straightened out in America. But a lot of what the students here do, and a lot of what the graduates do, when I look around the room, I see people who have taken their law degrees and have tried to use their law degrees to make a more virtuous, meaningful, sustainable environment for entrepreneurs. And that's a very noble path to do with your law degree. What I'm starting to see more and more of, and this is why we've got this panel assembled here, many of the folks on this panel have taken their law degrees and are trying to use technology, their knowledge of technology, their knowledge of platforms, their knowledge of the law to transform the law and legal process. Take those tools and revolutionize the way we as lawyers function. So they are lawyers / entrepreneurs, and I point to Larry Feldman as one of the first pioneers. I am not such a pioneer. My hope is I feel a little bit like the missing link, the mother of the potential next evolutionary advancement and the lawyers. But me, myself, I'm just going to watch from the sidelines as they revolutionize and I catalyze. That's my objective. So I did have a couple slides. Look, we're all ruled by fear, greed, and disruption. But as I hand it over to these folks, I wanted to leave, this is a chart I use in my telecom and tech law classes. We are living in this far end over here on the left. We are living through an inflection point the likes of which humanity has never seen. And I mean going back to the discovery of fire, the invention of the wheel. There is such dramatic technological, geopolitical, social, cultural disruption. And in every revolution, every single revolution, it's been the lawyers who have been forced by passion or skill to put back the pieces, to put the pieces back together after the revolution. Now, I got to say, in technology, in the disruption we're experiencing now, lawyers have been conservative and slow on the uptake. I'm hopeful that the Brooklyn Law students, the Brooklyn Law grads, the people in the Brooklyn Law orbit will take up the mantle and actually be the leaders who know how to put the pieces together, who know how to take their law degree, their knowledge of entrepreneurship, the mashup that makes them special, and play a transformative role in this revolution that we're witnessing. I know, for instance, 30 law schools have called Brooklyn and said, how can we build something like you folks are doing in Brooklyn? They're starting to do it. We've got a few years head start. I hope that's good enough. Before I hand it over, I want to point to the fact that we just got a grant from the European Commission. They recognize Brooklyn as an innovator in the way experiential education in law schools can be used as a catalyst for the regional startups throughout Europe. So we are now working with 4 core law schools and 12 additional law schools to build Brooklyn-like programs throughout Europe to train the startup entrepreneurs of Europe, to help them, to seed them, to make them relevant in their own markets. Now, I feel a little bit unpatriotic. We're going to bring back to America, and the first way we're going to bring it back to America is through the revolutionaries on this platform. Larry, I hope you're listening, because we're going to need your wisdom and insights. But first, I want to hand it over to Eric Dykema, Brooklyn Law grad, spent a couple years at King and Spalding, stamping his card, doing it, playing by the rules. He is now one of our great revolutionaries who's taken his knowledge of technology and knowledge of the law and is transforming law firm practice.
Thank you, Professor Askin. Thanks, everybody, for inviting me here and being here. I just want to say hello to some of the professors I recognize, the lady who teaches the rule of perpetuities, the guy with the axe in the back, like my 2 scariest professors. Anyways, thank you. I learned a lot of sort of timeless legal wisdom and training from a lot of people in this room. And then I also learned, like, both in law school and then starting at the firm, some other skills that were just as important, but much less timeless. To follow on the example of the sort of 1776 era, in the time of John Adams being a lawyer, a really important legal skill was like selecting and sharpening like turkey feathers to write on stretched lambskin parchments and, excuse me, to write your documents. A little bit more recently, like finding materials in a library, like an actual library with books and like pocket parts and stuff like that, was a very important legal skill. You couldn't do your job without it. Those skills are kind of gone now. They've been replaced by new things. Lexis and Westlaw have done away with paper law libraries. There's sort of a new crop of very important legal skills that you can't do your job without, but aren't really sort of the timeless things that lawyers do, like legal analysis. In my experience at King and Spalding, a lot of these sort of new, hope they're gone soon legal skills involve like the creation of documents, copying and pasting, reformatting things for different courts and different preferences of partners. And that's what we're trying to do with Case Rails, is sort of usher those things to the wayside and let lawyers get back to doing what they really are trained to do and want to do, which is advising their clients, performing legal analysis, thinking about the right way to do things, making arguments to courts. And so that's our very, very high-level thesis. A couple of words about sort of who we are. I was a student here at Brooklyn Law School. Before that, I was an engineer. But Case Rails is not just me. Sort of my two co-founders, George went to Carnegie Mellon. He's a great programmer, and Kyle went to MIT. He's a patent lawyer and engineer himself. Our first employee, Jackie, is here, kind of in the middle. She's mad I just pointed her out. But yeah, so we've started this company, Case Rails. We all left our other jobs to create sort of the next generation of legal drafting software for lawyers, so that whatever your practice area is, if you are doing discovery responses in a litigation, or if you are drafting wills for clients where you want to sort of select from libraries of clauses, we want to make that easy and seamless and sort of help your workflow and not get in the way. That's what we're going to do. We think that this is a very large business opportunity. As we all know, like, lawyers and law firms charge a lot of money. Litigation is expensive. All kinds of services you get from law firms are expensive. And all law firms, especially big law firms, are feeling the pinch now. The legal business is getting more competitive. A lot of law firms are sort of slashing associates as they chase sort of upmarket, higher margin businesses. And part of the reason for that is that they can't match the economics and the efficiencies that very small firms or very small practices can get. We'd like to hopefully try and change that dynamic and allow law firms to sort of grow bigger and hire more people, which I think would be good for a lot of the students in the room. And also, sort of on the client side, we've spoken with a lot of clients. Although clients generally are always sort of trepidatious and would rather not be paying lawyers, it's not the sort of things that lawyers like to do that clients mind paying for. Generally, clients are happy with the hours that they spend or that they pay for when the lawyer's advising them or arguing for them in court or something like that. What clients are unhappy with is line items on bills like managing email or reformatting this or adapting a document from the old thing to the new thing. It's these secretarial tasks that make clients unhappy because they sort of, I think they intuit that this is not really legal work. This is something that just it's sort of mechanical. You don't need 15 years of college to do this stuff. So yeah, so that's Case Rails. That's what we're doing. For those of you who are practicing, I'll probably be knocking on your door sometime to sell it to you with maybe a very short trial version for free. And for those of you who are still students, I'd love to eventually break out a version of Case Rails for you so that you'll no longer get formatting or sort of grammatical errors or blue booking errors marked off on your legal writing papers. So I hope to be speaking with you soon, and thanks very much.
Thanks, Eric. As Eric was taking the stage, I was a little bit afraid. I realized he's going to dime me in. When I look at Eric, all I think of is this incredibly inspired entrepreneur/law student who always had a new idea for a venture he wanted to launch. And I rail against something that I call yeah, but lawyers in a why not world. The lawyers as the roadblocks, the lawyers as the naysayers, and I don't want to be that. But when I think about all the ideas that Eric had along the way as a law student, I kept roadblocking him. I kept saying, Eric, that's a good idea, but did you think about this regulatory issue? Did you think about that issue? And now every single idea he had has come to fruition by someone else who's made many millions of dollars off of that idea. So I hope I haven't been too much of a roadblock for Eric, and I hope this venture is the one that takes off. I admire his courage to have left a stable job at a law firm to embark on his own legally based venture. With that, I want to hand it over to Allison. Allison is graduated from BLS in '98, seasoned practitioner, still practicing trust and estates IP law, but now has also launched a venture of her own. She found an area in which she, with her legal training, can provide some value.
It's still hard for me to think of myself as seasoned because it feels like just yesterday that I walked out the doors of this law school, and then I come here and remember that it wasn't. I just had my 15-year reunion, so it is particularly meaningful for me to be here and speaking to you all, and really an honor, and it's humbling to be able to speak to a room full of such esteemed colleagues and alumni. So what I would like to do is just tell you a little bit about my path and my journey and how I found myself where I am today. I wear a couple of hats. I have 2 companies, 2 businesses. I have 3 businesses if you count my household and my children and my husband, and sort of how I balance that and how I got there. So I want to bring you back to 1998, if you will. It was the dawn of the dot-com era. There were no phones, smart or otherwise. There were no iPads. I actually had the only notebook in my class, and it sounded like a bus, and I was too embarrassed to use it. So this was the world that I came out of. I just got an email address as I was leaving law school. And as I graduated, I was 24 years old. I had just gone straight through college and law school. My father said to just keep going and do it, and then you can do what you want after. And I decided that I wasn't really getting the jobs that I wanted. And it was, if you can imagine, then the salaries that people were getting offered in private law firms were an unheard of $60,000, $65,000, $70,000. But I decided to take a gap year. It was actually more of a gap year and a half. I traveled around the world. I traveled around the US. And when I returned, I actually got a job at a law firm, a big law firm in New York. I actually turned down a job as the Assistant U.S. Attorney General in the Northern Mariana Islands, but my father said, it's enough, you had your time in Fiji, you're coming back stateside. And so I threw myself into the law. I was a litigation associate. The firm was 26 attorneys when I started. It was 76 attorneys when I left. And I actually had a stint as an anti-counterfeiting fashion lawyer, so that's what I was doing for a while. So in a flash of 8 years, I made partner. I was 8 months pregnant when I made partner, went on maternity leave the day that my partnership became effective. And when I returned, my world had changed. It was no longer easy for me to stay and work until 10 o'clock at night and work on the weekends and go off to Europe at a moment's notice. And I had been dreaming all this time of different business ventures. And I didn't really realize it at the time, but my hobby was making business plans. I had all of these ideas. But the idea, as Jonathan was saying, this naysaying, it's the yeah, but. And there's a naysayer in everyone, right? The key to, I think, being an entrepreneur is being able to shut that voice up and just execute and really decide what those ideas are to execute and what you're going to do. So it never occurred to me that I would be able to have my own law firm. But as the economy crashed in 2008 and 2009, that's exactly what I did. I left. I had people who said to me, well, you've achieved the dream of partnership, why would you do that? But it wasn't my dream. I wanted to make partner, I didn't want to be a partner. So I started my own law firm. It's true. And I started my own law firm in a totally different discipline. I became a trust and estates attorney. And one partner said to me when I left, well, would you wake up one day and become a trust and estates attorney? And I sort of did. I had been taking courses all along. I come from a family of lawyers. I knew my way around a will execution, a surrogate's court dispute, so it wasn't really that much of a transition. And so that's what I did. And I realized as I did it, and when I stopped hyperventilating and realizing that I could pay my mortgage and actually earn an income, I started to reflect on what it was and how that happened. We're all entrepreneurs, right? And I didn't realize that when I went to law school. But you really are. Just by becoming a lawyer, doing whatever it is, whether it's a law firm or starting your own business, you have that in you, I think, innately to succeed, even just through law school. I didn't know that when I went. And so as I was generating business, rainmaking, and these were concepts that threw me into a tizzy when I was in a big law firm. The idea of finding somebody that was going to give me a $500,000 piece of litigation, which was small, for that. And what did I do? I started to network. And how did I network? I just talked to anybody who would talk to me. And I told people who I was looking to meet, and they introduced me one to the other. And that just led into different things. So I want to tell you a little bit about IPSA. As Jonathan had touched on, lawyers, I think, are slow to change. They're slow to adapt to technology. and I saw a void. I saw a void for lawyers and technology that's adapted to lawyers. Initially, as I started to get a groove in my business, the ideas started flowing again. And what I really wanted to do was start making apps for lawyers. And so I explored that path. And in the course of exploring the apps for lawyers, I had an idea of LinkedIn for lawyers and connecting lawyers, but doing it in a way that was a secure space, a closed loop, closed community, online space for lawyers and law students. So you could collaborate, not worry about current clients or future clients coming in and seeing what you say and holding it against you. And also something that was secure, which has become ever more important right now with what's going on with the NSA and PRISM. And so that's what I've been doing for the past 2 years. We have a site. We're in the alpha or beta testing phase, I guess you can say. The site is built up. I like to say that I have a room that's set up for a cocktail party. I'm just waiting for my guests to arrive. So I'm starting to populate it and get people to kick the tires and tell me what they like about it, what they don't like about it, and start to really roll it out. So I'm probably over my time, but I just wanted to touch on a couple of things. And this opportunity to speak caused me to stop and reflect on some of the lessons along the way. One of them actually came from Tina Fey. I read an article that she read once, which was, when somebody offers you an opportunity, you just say yes and. You don't think, right? And one opportunity leads to the next. Even just being here today, Jill Backer introduced me to Professor Askin, and that's led to other things. So that was really one of the most important things. And that actually led me to what I was doing with IPSA. The firm that I was at, one of my mentors and sponsors was the president of the New York State Bar Association. She asked me to be the chair of a task force on privacy. I didn't know anything about privacy, but I learned, and I figured it out. And in studying that and generating a report, that really led me to the founding of IPSA and doing all of that. But there were actually 2 lessons that I'll close with, one of which actually comes from Larry Feldman. In talking about what makes an entrepreneur, right? An entrepreneur is somebody who has to give it a shot no matter what the outcome is, right? You have to be not afraid of failure, and I know that IPSA could fail or it could succeed, but whatever it is, it's gonna bring me on to something else, either to strengthen my law firm or another business. And I'm already starting to think of other businesses that I'm doing as my 4th company, I guess. And that also, and an entrepreneur is somebody who not only envisions their own success, but helps others and envisions their other successes as well. And I think that's also what's in this room and what's happening in Brooklyn, right? Businesses that are helping other businesses, even if they compete with each other, which is an amazing thing. But the most important lesson is one that I actually learned here at Brooklyn Law School. And I was reminded of it by seeing Professor Crea here today. It's a lesson that I actually used to have on my screensaver, and it served me in good stead as a litigator and also in doing what I do now. And the lesson is never drop your briefcase and run. I'll close with that. Thank you.
So from Larry to Allison to Eric, we've got essentially lawyers turned entrepreneur. Our next 2 speakers are essentially lawyers enabling entrepreneurs who have carved out their own unique path to enable entrepreneurs in their own unique ways. I look at Liberty McAteer. Liberty graduated a couple years ago. Liberty, when he was a student, was very enterprising. I beg my students to go work out there in the world. Go find the incubators, the co-working spaces, the accelerators, the other schools, and be the point person. Make them think that you are the Brooklyn Law representative for them. You can't get to Brooklyn Law School without going through that person. Liberty has made it clear that that's a viable path. So Liberty was the first of my graduates to essentially embed himself in an incubator space down on Chambers Street, working with a lot of funky startups. He made himself invaluable to them to the point where the guy who started the enterprise said, I want Liberty to come and work for me even before he passes the bar exam. Now, there were certainly interesting ethical implications. How does someone right out of law school go and embed himself at an incubator space, working with both the incubator and with all of the companies in that incubator space? So it's been an interesting, unique path, and I think I look at Liberty like a pioneer down that path, and a path that I hope many of my graduates, many of our graduates, many Brooklyn Law graduates to come will follow in Liberty's footsteps. I don't know where Liberty's future is going to take him, but having been a pioneer at an incubator, the lawyer, the point person, the biz dev person at an incubator space is a remarkable place to be, allows him to pivot in an infinite potentiality of directions. So Liberty?
Thank you very much for that introduction, Professor Askin. It's a real honor to be here at the launch of this new enterprise. Professor Askin actually introduced me to my boss in January of 2010 when, as an intern for the Blip Clinic, I embedded full-time with my boss. He did indeed hire me before I had taken the bar, and an attorney that I was working with around that time said that it's as if I had been trained to sail a dinghy and was just handed the keys to a battleship. And that's certainly how it felt. Without the guidance of professors like Jonathan Askin and the Blip Clinic, I surely would have been completely lost. I'm the only attorney for a company of about 30 people with employees in 6 states, and I've had to learn new areas of law constantly. I specialize in intellectual property, information and privacy law here, and I've had to deal with everything from clients in bankruptcy to disputes to employee matters to drafting terms of service, vendor agreements, IP licensing, and recently I've been made secretary to the board, so I've also had to deal with a tremendous amount of corporate governance and, importantly, legal budgeting. Something that you really don't learn in law school is that when you're in-house, you actually start to really count the money that you spend on lawyers. And I'm profoundly aware of the fact that I've had phone calls where I can be spending easily $30, $40 a minute. And that really sort of puts the entire conversation on hold when you've had a conversation and realize, that just cost me $3,200 for 45 minutes. And when you're in a small company like ours, which is, quote, ultra light, you really try to pinch every penny. It was mentioned earlier, by the way, that there are 500 or so startups in the Brooklyn Triangle. My sincere suspicion is that only a very, very small minority actually have in-house counsel. And that is something of a terrifying aspect to me because I don't understand how those companies function on a day-to-day basis. I hope that as a result of CUBE, more and more lawyers will be produced that go directly in-house because the myriad of legal problems posed to an organization of any size, especially one poised for growth, are tremendous. Not only are most lawyers, as I've seen, somewhat unsophisticated about business issues, many business people are very unsophisticated about legal issues. And as often as not, the job of a lawyer is not just to clear the path for the business people, but it's also to clean up after their messes as well. So I sincerely hope that more and more graduates from Brooklyn Law will be going directly in-house and growing our network. And I look forward to working with all of them. Give me a call, guys. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Liberty. Our next speaker is going to be Phil Weiss. And I should tell you, raise your hand if you've ever been to a hackathon. Wow, that's a lot. Okay.
Who knows what a hackathon is?
Yeah, raise your hand if you've never heard the term hackathon. So a few of you, okay, and maybe some are afraid to admit that. I knew we had a special dean 2 years ago when the moment he was appointed, he made a special surprise appearance at the 2012 Brooklyn Law School Legal Hackathon. In this very room, the energy was palpable. I was terrified. I wanted to stop this thing in its tracks. I thought if this thing fails, I'm the one who suffers. I'm the one who's fired. The students will be fine. Phil Weiss was the one who gave us the courage to persist and continue and produce that first legal hackathon. So I think we were the pioneering law school in the country to try to connect the concept of law reform, using the law to transform ventures, using technology and innovation to transform the law, and he ran with it. He ran with it so much and so far and so well that he is now one of the founders, along with, how many, 3 or 4 other Brooklyn Law School grads, of what is now the largest community of tech lawyers in New York, and now the first such community in DC. LA is launching, San Francisco is going to launch, we're going to be launching in London. So Phil is the, what's your title for Legal Hackers? He's the founder of New York Legal Hackers, running monthly events that have now been since taken away from Brooklyn Law School and put into the heart of New York City's tech community. We thought this was too good a concept. It did not deserve to be at one school, but it should be for the entire community. So I point to Phil as a champion and pioneer in transform. Who thinks hacker's a dirty word, by the way? That's what I want to see, some hands. 3 years ago, almost every single lawyer would have raised their hand, I think, and thought, hackers, they're bad people. They destroy the internet. Our goal, in part, at least my goal in part, is to train the next generation of lawyers to adopt the hacker ethos, to understand what it means to work collaboratively. Law school is such a cutthroat, competitive, fierce experience. If you don't get the A, it means someone else is getting the A. You got to get the A to get the good job. If you get the A, someone else can't get the A. In my program, you get points for being collaborators. Not in the Nazi sense, but you get points for being supporters, for supporting and it's easy to tell who the real collaborative attorneys are. So I think with Legal Hackers, the objective is to train lawyers to collaborate, to love and care about one another, and to have the high tide raise all ships. So Phil, to me, is the great example of that. And he's also carved out his own path. We do Legal Hackers parties and events at his office, which he calls a reverse mullet. It's business in the rear, party in the front. So Phil, come on and tell us what you're up to.
Good afternoon, folks. I'm not going to go off the cuff like my colleagues up on the panel here, so I apologize for that. I tried to get everything I wanted to say on paper, and I may go a little bit over as well, so I apologize. So before getting too deep into my remarks for this afternoon, I want to note that I'm eternally grateful to Brooklyn Law School for a couple of reasons. The first is that I met my girlfriend, whom I love dearly and live with, on the Brooklyn Law Review. She was editor-in-chief while I was the executive editor at the time. Scandal, I know. The second reason is that I found Blip, and yes, I recognize the awkwardness of pairing my girlfriend and Blip. Blip not only shaped my current expertise in intellectual property and startup legal counsel, I found my job through one of my Blip clients. So I'm indebted to this school and the Blip program specifically forever and ever as a result. That in mind, I'm so honored to be part of the launch of Cube, and for reasons I'm about to get into, I could not think of a better venture for Brooklyn's innovation community. Anyway, my name is Phil Weiss. I'm an attorney, a former student of Professor Askins, and founder of a local innovation group called Legal Hackers, which tasks its members to harmonize technology and the law that governs it through creative and collaborative problem solving. As far as I can tell, Legal Hackers, and as Professor Askin mentioned, Legal Hackers is the largest law-related meetup in the country, and we're growing in support by the hour. We now have 2 chapters in 2 cities, with another one on the way. We're 600 members strong and constantly increasing the breadth of our network. I'm extremely proud of this, probably to a fault, and I have Brooklyn Law School and Blip to thank for that. But before all that, I began my career's journey here at Brooklyn Law School in 2009 and graduated in 2012. Like many of my classmates, I enrolled in law school at a time when it felt like the pie was getting smaller and smaller for the debt-ridden undergrads of the early odds. At that time, our family and friends, our networks of support, were losing their homes, their jobs, their pensions, a lot, and we all had a sense that things weren't getting better anytime soon. So we, generation, whatever letter we're on now, decided to do the only thing we knew guaranteed success, and that's go back to school. And oh my, did we. 2009 was the largest one-out class this country had ever seen. Economists called it another recession-induced trend and called it a day. What we, generation, letter, whatever, probably did not consider when submitting those applications was the effect this new demand on a law school education would have on our employment prospects. Where in 2009 there were record-breaking highs in law school applications, 2012 saw a substantial drop in enrollment numbers, numbers that resembled the early 90s. The classes of 2011 and 2012 were faced with substantially lower law job prospects than graduates from years before. And finally, several, if not a majority of schools were reporting, and some still do report in fact, that as low as 50% of their exiting class had a full-time job waiting for them after school. So I think it's fair to say that although our predecessors, lawyers graduated years before, could have looked to a legal career as a stable option, that just wasn't the case for my generation of graduates. Some argue that this is all cyclical, that there's nothing we could have done to help this. But in the words of my contracts professor, Winnie Taylor, let's take this train of thought one step further. Currently, the Department of Labor predicts that about 74,000 lawyer positions will be created between 2010 and 2020. If we can oversimplify that for a moment, on average, that's 7,400 lawyer positions per year being created. However, the ABA is reporting that 45,000 students are receiving JDs each year. In other words, assuming for a moment that even if for every one lawyer position that's created, 2 current lawyers leave their positions, there would still be over 22,000 students looking for a legal position, full-time legal position, I should say. And perhaps there's nothing wrong with this. Researchers have said for years that the percentage of JDs entering law as a profession has been steadily decreasing. But many of the unemployed exiting students I just mentioned regard this as a point of despair. They want to become lawyers out of school, not analysts or, yuck, business people. And they're, of course, entitled to this opinion. But my point, as I stand here today, is that these numbers, these statistics, are just the opposite of despair. I find these numbers a point of hope and excitement. There's an important assumption to all these numbers that's frequently overlooked, and that assumption is that a legal job, as we know it, involves the giving of advice, legal advice, and services incidental to giving legal advice to a client. I'd like to argue here today, and I hope that CUBE can further a mission that a law job can be much more than that. As you can see by my fellow panelists here, we have people using their law degrees in a way to further legal services as a market, as an industry. And I fear that if lawyers, these unemployed students leaving school, don't figure out a way to really harness their skills in a way to further legal services, the legal services model that we know right now is not sustainable. So with that, I'm actually having a glitch on my iPad right now, so I don't have the rest of the speech, but I'm probably out of time anyway. So I'm so excited to see what CUBE is about to do. Legal Hackers is constantly looking for common legal problems that need a new solution through collaborative problem solving. So many big companies have taken the low-hanging fruit. LegalZoom and Rocket Lawyer, they're looking at trademark registrations, entity formations, tax filings, all these things. I'm looking forward to see what CUBE finds as the next legal problem that can be addressed through this collaborative problem solving and entrepreneurship and innovation. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Phil. Phil triggered a couple interesting comments. I actually before Peter comes up, I want to leave you with one slide and say a couple things. First of all, the generation. Phil, what I call your generation, if people are willing to go with this, Generation Why Not. All right? That should be what we should be aspiring to, the why not generation. So I think Phil had some upbeat stuff. He had some downbeat stuff. I want to point to the fact again that we really are living through this phenomenal inflection point, a revolution like we've never seen before. And to paraphrase William Gibson, the future is here, it's just not evenly distributed. I think the needs for lawyers are here. We just haven't figured out how to adequately place them and compensate them. But like no other time in history, we need those with legal training. What does the internet do well? The internet knows black from white. The internet does not work in those gray areas, the subtle nuances that only someone with a quality legal degree can do. So the internet is going to disintermediate almost everyone, except the truly smart, innovative, subtle analyzers. And who are the most subtle analyzers? It's those who use their legal training and learned well. So I've used this slide at Legal Hackers, so I'm sure Phil has seen it at least, and maybe not, and maybe a couple of others of you. This is what we call the innovation matrix. There are different iterations of this, but the innovation matrix sort of points to the fact that almost every new technological advance was built on the backs of the old. I think a lot of people point to the Wright brothers. What did the Wright brothers build the first airplane with? They didn't have airplane parts. They built it with bicycle parts. Our goal is to figure out, and I don't know how we moved into what is the most sophisticated, interesting quadrant here. How do we use the law to create not just new technologies, but new technologies and new applications of the law? Is IPSA that? Is case rails that? I don't know. I don't think we've seen that yet, but we've seen things like Rocket Lawyer and Docracy and LegalZoom, using new technologies to essentially do what old technologies have done, but we haven't made transformative services out of them yet. That's what I'm hopeful that someone in this room will do. That's what I'm hoping we're going to do with the CUBE Fellowship Program. have law students and law graduates figure out ways to revolutionize the law and legal process through harnessing new technology. Now, with that, we've got a very rare, the rarest of breeds in the room now. Our last speaker, presenter, is a 1L here at Brooklyn Law School who came to law school with a venture of his own. Nothing gives me and my students more pleasure than actually representing a law student in their own venture. It's a win-win-win. It's a win because we're sending a law student off to an entrepreneurial venture. If they get money, maybe they're going to hire a law school grad as their in-house counsel. If they make billions, maybe they'll give the law school a grant. To the extent that they're going on pursuing their own venture, it means there's another law job that's free for another Brooklyn Law School grad. So it's, in my mind, it's a win-win-win all the way around when Brooklyn Law students can help Brooklyn Law School entrepreneurs. So we've got a great example of it here. I want to give to Peter. I saw Peter present right after LeVar Burton on Saturday at Engadget at the Javits Center before several hundred people. He was very smooth, very polished. I hope you're going to be on moot court.
We'll see.
All right, you got the polish for it. I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you do half as good a job as you did on Saturday, I'm going to be very proud of you.
Thank you, Professor Askin, and thank you for inviting me to this panel. I'm honored to be mentioned in this showcase and to share the floor with such notable and impressive alumni, such as yourself. I think CUBE is a great idea, and Professor Askin and Dean Allard have created a program that will bring value to students and businesses. Right now, Brooklyn is a burgeoning hub for creative and entrepreneurial endeavors. As new technology like 3D printing becomes more readily available and skills like programming grow in popularity, more people will be empowered to start a business. The barriers are dropping right before us, and it's happening right here in Brooklyn. I was asked to mention what it's like to be an entrepreneur and in school. Well, work-life balance is out the window, but that's okay, because I do love a challenge, and entrepreneurialism is just that. The concept of going out and creating something is a reward in itself. Taking yourself out of your comfort zone is the best way to learn and develop. The skills I have learned will pair well with the skills of analysis, reasoning, and persuasion I seek in my legal education. Furthermore, this experience will fine-tune my mind to tackle complex problems. A lot of people have ideas, and it was touched on earlier, the yeah-but syndrome, and it's pervasive, not just in the legal field. There's something called imposter syndrome, where people ask themselves, can I do this? Am I good enough? And there's this great quote I heard. It said, you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. Currently, I'm working on MyBell. MyBell is the world's first customizable bicycle bell. MyBell lets riders customize their sound and their lighting signals. We don't live in a one-sound-fits-all world. Different sounds invoke different responses depending on geography, culture, or community norms. We think riders know their commute and bike path better than anyone else, and we want to provide the platform to best help navigate roads, streets, and trails. A mechanical bell might work in some areas if it can be heard, but sometimes your surroundings necessitate a different audible or visual signal. What works in Brooklyn might not work in Shanghai or London. Biking as a form of transportation and recreation is growing rapidly. Global sales in this industry are estimated by Business Wire to be $64 billion by 2018. And as the global need to reduce carbon emissions, improve personal health loom over us, we look to become the de facto accessory for riders. This past weekend, as was mentioned before, I was a finalist in Engadget's Insert Coin Inventors Competition. My product and team had the honor of being selected from thousands of submissions across North America. It was a great experience to exhibit with cutting-edge technology companies and share the stage with leaders in the field. Here's a part of the presentation.
What's your sound? My sound is. Last summer, I was riding my bike in New York City. And as I approached an intersection, someone stood blocking my way. I rang my mechanical bell, and to my dismay, they either didn't hear it or they just didn't care. I almost got into a serious accident. This had happened before, and I thought, this is probably going to happen again. I went to the store, and all I found were air horns. That was the only alternative at the time. And I thought, I want to encourage people to ride bikes. I don't want to ostracize riders. I don't think I'm going to be able to do that if I'm blasting an air horn at somebody when they're just not paying attention. The Department of Transportation reported over 30 bicycle to pedestrian accidents in a 2-month period before City Bike. Over the course of a year, that's about 180. Bike accidents are serious. Bikers can travel upwards of 25 miles per hour. And unlike cars, they're unenclosed, so every little accident has the potential to break some bones, scratches, or sometimes even be fatal. Mechanical bells are just not loud enough. Mechanical bells top out at 70 decibels. Urban intersections without construction can be as loud as 80 decibels. They also don't have lights, which can increase clutter on your handlebar. My bell is the world's first customizable bicycle bell. Think ringtones for your bike. My bell tops out at 96 decibels. And because decibels are logarithmic, as you can see by the graph, that means it's 10 times louder than mechanical bells. My bell is also customizable, so that means that you can take whatever sound you want and project it at a loud volume. Just think how fun and popular ringtones first were when they first came out. My bell also has LEDs, which means that you're combining two accessories that bikers need onto one platform. And our LEDs are programmable, which means that you can select how you want to look at night by selecting pulse patterns. Little video.
Very meta.
Mechanical bells don't get the job done if people are listening to headphones or not paying attention. My bell is a fun and easy way to keep everyone safe. It's a digital bell that plays the sound of your choice. Levels upwards of 96 decibels. My bell is 10 times louder than your average bell. Just loud enough to really get someone's attention. My bell is easy to use. Just plug it into your computer, drag your sound file into the My Bell drive, and you're ready to roll. It has an elastic band, which can attach to most bicycles. It goes wherever you go, so you don't have to worry about theft. My Bell also has LEDs. Riders can select their pulse patterns, so they can choose how they look in the dark. My Bell combines two important safety tools, which will reduce clutter on your handlebars. The My Bell team has over 7 years of design for manufacturing experience and over 6 years of electrical engineering experience. We were finalists in New York's Next Top Makers competition. Over the last few months, we've gone through many prototypes as we get My Bell ready for you. Please help us bring My Bell to riders around the world.
Yeah, it's fun.
Thanks. 2 points of reference. Do we have Eric Adams in the room, perchance? No incoming borough president? I want to pass it back to, I know we're almost out of time. Larry Feldman has been incredibly patient. We can all see you, Larry. I don't know if you have any sort of concluding words of wisdom, insights that you care to impart on the panelists and the community here in the room?
Well, I just wanted to say that all of the panelists have exactly told us why we need this program around the country, but why specifically we should be so proud at Brooklyn Law for bringing this to the forefront. We're entrepreneurial in our education itself. Again, Dean Allard, your efforts, as well as Jonathan, your entire team, everyone on the panel has told you about their innovative processes for different businesses, their innovation, their entrepreneurship. This is happening worldwide, and now Brooklyn Law can be there representing them, helping them build, and helping them to achieve their dreams. My dad told me early on, you never want to spend your life saying you shoulda, woulda, coulda. These entrepreneurs have showed us that the work that you're doing now at Brooklyn Law is just the beginning of this field. Thank you very much. I appreciate being part of it.
Thank you, Larry. Those wonderful last words. Thank you all, our panelists, and each and every one of you for the contributions and effort that you have and that you will in the future be lending to make this important program in the law school successful. Have a great week. Thanks for coming. See you. Thank you, Jonathan.